Welcome to Major in Law YouTube channel. Today, let's look into one of the main areas of criminal law, Actus Reus. Actus Reus is a legal term which refers to the wrongful actions of an accused. For an individual to be convicted of a criminal offense, the prosecution must prove that his/her conduct or actions were wrongful. A wrongful act is one that is prohibited by the law, example, murder and fraud. An accused will be held liable in criminal law if he voluntarily carried out a criminal act, example, stealing. However, concept of automatism makes this more complicated. Voluntary actions and legal implications. Understanding voluntary actions. The bodily movement of an individual is a key factor in establishing voluntary action in criminal law. An individual is only liable for actions that are done voluntarily, not under unconscious conditions or reflexes. Voluntary actions are a crucial element in establishing the actus reus in criminal law. Let's move on to legal implications. Under the law, a person can be held liable for their voluntary actions that constitute a crime. Crimes of possession, situational crimes, and statutory crimes of omissions are also discussed for clarity. The discussion includes examples such as criminal liability for possession of prohibited items and situations leading to criminal acts. Case study: Bratty v. Attorney General for Northern Ireland. Case summary. In the case of Bratty v. Attorney General for Northern Ireland, 1961, the issue of voluntary actions and criminal liability was addressed. Lord Denning pointed out that an individual is only liable for the actions that he did voluntarily. The definition of an involuntary act was provided, including acts done by either muscles without the control of the mind, like reflexes. The ruling established the principle that an individual is only liable for actions that are done voluntarily, not in a state of automatism. Automatism as a defense. What is automatism? Automatism is a legal defense that applies when a person commits a crime in a state of unconsciousness or involuntary action. It refers to actions done without the control of the mind, such as those done by a sleepwalker or a person having a seizure. Requirements for citing automatism as a defense. The accused must establish that the actions were involuntary and not under their control. In some cases, a proper foundation for the defense, such as medical evidence, may be required. Identifying the actus reus. Read the definition of the offense in the statute or legislation to identify the actus reus. The statute will mention the acts that constitute a particular crime and are thus prohibited. For example, in the Theft Act 1968, the actus reus of theft is defined as dishonestly appropriating property belonging to another with the intention of permanently depriving the other of it. Exceptions to actus reus. Situational crimes. Criminal liability arises when an individual is in a prohibited situation. Crimes of possession. Criminal liability arises when an individual possesses prohibited items like drugs. Crimes of omissions. Not all crimes require a wrongful act. Liability can arise for failing to act as required by the law. Examples of situational crimes and crimes of possession. Situational crimes. Example: being drunk in a public place. Criminal liability arises from being in a prohibited situation. No specific action of possession required, the situation itself is the crime. Crimes of possession. Example: possessing controlled drugs. Criminal liability arises from possessing prohibited items. No specific situational requirement, the act of possession is the crime. Crimes of omission. Criminal liability can arise when an individual fails to act, such as a parent not feeding their child, resulting in harm or death. There are specific circumstances where the accused persons have been held criminally liable for omissions, such as the case of a police officer failing to stop a murder he witnessed. Certain elements must be met for one to be liable for a crime of omission, including the capability of the crime to be committed by omission and the existence of a legal duty. Key points to remember. Actus Reus refers to the guilty act that constitutes the physical element of a crime. It must be a voluntary act, an omission when there is a duty to act, or a conduct that causes a prohibited result. Examples of actus reus include theft, assault, and murder, where the physical act is the crucial element of the crime. Thank you for watching. For more videos like this, subscribe now. To get exam-oriented law notes, check our products at majorinlaw.org.